it's very awkward to do this kind of workshops in a remote experience. So in a way for us to figure it out who is who and also get to know a little bit each other, there is this check-in frame board in which that you can write your name. So I'm going to call you all to me. So you're seeing what I see. And here, this is a moment also to put your name. You can choose one of these empty rectangles, write your name, your role, put a picture if you'd like. This is also a good moment to introduce ourselves. So my name is Milene Gonçalves. I'm an assistant professor at TU Delft in the Netherlands. I work on the topics of creativity and also visual thinking, everything related to how do we support designers in their creative process. I'm always very interested on these topics. And I'm part of the SIG on design creativity for quite some time, since my PhD, and I've always been fascinated in learning more about creativity. But mostly my focus has been on the theoretical aspect of creativity. I'm a designer myself, but in the meantime, I've dove so much into the theoretical aspects that sometimes I always find it super refreshing to see perspective from creative practice. And that brings me to my colleague, the person that is supporting us in this workshop, Katrina Heijne. Katrina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this workshop. So for me, it's the first time participating in this conference, actually, because typically I focus a little bit more on practice, although research has always been my interest as well. I'm teaching several courses at the Delft University of Technology related to applying creativity in a very deliberate way. So it can be individually or as a team or as an organization. We try to do as much as possible, do this stuff science-based. So the practice we teach, we build that on the science that has been done so far. And we collected all that deliberate practices in this book that I wrote, Roadmap for Creative Problem Solving Techniques. And on the side, I also have my own company. It's called Serious Creativity, because I'm always looking for the balance between having fun and let everything go wild, while still maintain the business serious aspect as well. And today we are going to, well, Milene will of course tell much more about that, but it's really about finding the connections and building the bridge between practice and research, and that's also where my interest is in my work.
Indeed, and I see some people already putting the pictures. I think that's really cool. Thank you so much for participating, to put your name out there. So in the meantime, I can also, while everyone is getting acquainted with the Miro board and also putting your information to check in, I can introduce the reasoning behind this workshop. I will move already to the beyond the blue arrow. I can hear someone speaking. Maybe it was just echo. All right, so I will move in the middle board towards beyond the blue arrow, but you can still keep doing your check-in. In case you're done with the check-in, you can follow me. So the goal of this workshop that is done within the special interest group on design creativity is about bridging theory and practice. And from the realization that sometimes it seems like we are at odds in terms of the practitioners that really are focused on creativity and the theoretical researchers that are focusing on creativity, they don't seem to communicate. And I've experienced this myself when I started collaborating more and more with Katrina. We are teaching a minor program on creativity, and we have common goals about developing the creative capacity of the students, but we come from different perspectives, and we are always trying to bridge practice and theory. So we also noticed that there is very little overlap between these two communities. So once we step out of the academic world, we are going into how can we make organizations, individuals more creative. And then we are talking about creative facilitation, for instance, and the type of work that Katrina does. So we figured out, Katrina and I, that there is a potentially enormous loss of shared knowledge. And this is what we would like to do in this workshop, is to try to cover this potential gap between our fields. Because in the end, we kind of start from the same theoretical perspectives. We follow more or less the same foundational theories, but for some reason or another, then we don't communicate. So with this workshop, we want one of the main goal is to explore in which ways can creativity, theory, and practice learn from each other, specifically while looking at creative facilitation practice. And we have two sub goals. One of the sub goals is to experience a creative facilitation session from within. So we are actually going to put you in a creative facilitation session. You are going to be part of the creators, and not only from the people that investigate what's creativity. And the other sub goal is to identify opportunities and create a research agenda that we could try to bridge practice and theory even more. Let me look at the group. I think that we are a stable 11 people. So for those that are here and would like to keep in the group, you can of course ask to be involved with your voice and camera. So please join us further. We just lost someone, but let's start with a warm-up activity. So in the warm-up activity, we are going to, so I will call you to me. Yes. Hello, everyone. We are going to play a game of Touch Blue. And this is a game that can be played to energize a group in person, but also in remote settings like this one. So it's dash name is waiting for approval. If we see your request, we are going to add you. So Touch Blue is a game that we can play also in remote, and it has very easy. It's very easy rules. So I'm going to tell you that in the next few seconds you need to touch blue, and this of course would be helpful if we could see everyone. Everyone's cameras, which is not the case. But if you could share your cameras. Okay, Nicola, there are some people that have shared their audio and video, but they are waiting for approval. Do you know what's going on?
Yeah, I'm contacting them privately, but like all of them could just try to refresh the page, and probably then they will. Maybe it was some sort of lag with Hopin or something. I see that like some people now succeeded it. Muriel, for instance. Perfect.
Yeah, good job. Hello. So let's do a collective refreshing, I guess.
Hi. Ah, now it works. It's like magic. This F5 button. Perfect.
Hi.
So let's just wait for the session chairs. It's either us or them. We hope that both can join.
Okay, I'm back as well, and I see many more faces.
Yeah, it's like magic.
Yeah. Thank you for your patience with all these technical issues. And I see that our host from the design creativity SIG, Akane, is at home, but it's dinner time in Japan, of course. So she will probably join us later. Um, so now that I see you, we would like to play this game of Touch Blue with you. So prepare yourselves. When I say touch blue, you need to grab something that is blue. Touch blue. Easy, easy. Of course, yes, good job. All right, now touch something with stripes. I also need to search for something with stripes. I didn't plan this. Oh my god. Do I have? I have stripes, of course, in my yeah. Good job. All right, touch something metal. I have, of course, my computer. Yes, good job. Yeah, a fork.
Okay.
Touch something with leather. Probably it's not as easy. If people are conscious, then they are not wearing leather. I also don't have anything. Okay, some people have leather. Okay, and now something red that you can eat. I also have to find something. Good job, good job. We found some, yeah, tomato and something powdery that I don't know what it is.
Spices.
Spices. Good job. All right. So now let's go to the Miro board because the last activity of the Touch Blue game is related to what's creativity for you. So the idea is to look at the images that are here on the side, and they are icons. They mean anything that they could mean. So the idea is that you pick one, you copy paste it. Don't take it only, just copy paste it, and try to think of what does this element, make you think of creativity, and add a post-it with your name on it. Nicola, is it true that we have then 10 people?
Yeah, at the moment, yes.
Yeah.
I decided to participate in the workshop if that's fine, even though
That's
I'm
perfect.
the helper.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, that's great. 10 people counting with me and Katrina.
That's correct. Yes.
So a couple more minutes to finish this.
Is it only one figure that we are supposed to put, or we can just one?
Just one, just one.
Okay, thanks.
Do you need more time or maybe one more minute to finish? So I see Lily with a mountain, Nicola with a open door, Alice with a fried egg, Mayu with a luggage suitcase, Muriel with brainstorm, explosion tree, Haivi, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, with a DNA link, Akane with a flower pot. Who are we missing? Is there someone still that needs to finish? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So probably we are missing someone. Okay, so now the idea is to try to cluster in, let's try to think if we can do it in 2 groups. I hope that Katrina is around to in the session. I cannot, I don't see her reacting. Katrina, are you there? I think we have lost Katrina. So we are a small group actually, so we could actually be all in one group, it seems, if I'm not mistaken. So the idea of today was with this exercise was to try to see how do you understand creativity, and in a way try to cluster all of these aspects based on how you understand. Oh, Katrina is back. In how you understand creativity. Katrina, do you think that since we are 7, not counting with us, would be a good idea to have just one group?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So then you
Yeah.
have all the attention of all the facilitators. That's great.
Yeah.
So then we don't really have to cluster, meaning that we can directly go to the division of roles.
Yeah, exactly. Although it is already great to see how many different perspectives there are, right? You pick different things, but also because you have a different perspective, and that's an interesting thought to take along later on.
Exactly. So if we move on to the next frames, the frame of the creators and observers, you're going to see that there are we were ambitious, or maybe we were hoping or trying to plan for a lot of people. We are glad that it's a small group actually. So the idea is to have just one group, and meaning that there are going to be, let's say, group A. And in group A, you see that there are creators, space for 5 creators, and space for 3 observers. So the role of the creators is really to be involved, immersed into a creative facilitation session, in which that you are going to be asked to come up with ideas for a problem, and the observers are going to reflect on what's happening at in several perspectives. So you are going to still have the researcher hat on you, but yeah, still being observer is an important role in a creative facilitation session, especially when we are learning about creative facilitation sessions. So we would ask you to, if you have a preference for one of the roles, that you take your icon and post it to one of the bubbles here. So for instance, in group A, that you come and put one in one of the bubbles, either in creators or observers.
And as creator, yeah, it's a more active thing. You will have to interact with Miro. So if you don't have very well access to Miro for some reason, it may be helpful to be observer. Yeah, that's maybe it. And this is, by the way, all practice already, right? By doing these activities, you practice already with Miro, and this will help you later on as well during the actual activity. So that's also one of the reasons why we chose this approach. I see some nice icons already. So if you can also move your name to it, so we know which name is connected to the icon.
So it seems that we have 3 creators and 3 observers. Now I asked the specialist, the expert, is that okay, or should we move someone from the observers to the creators?
So it is okay. So if you really want to observe, this is your role. Maybe your circumstances would allow for that. If you were in doubt already, then you could. Oh, there are 4 already in the.
Okay. Yeah, that's already good.
4 in the creators and Akane. Yeah, it also depends whether you are able to interact actively at all times, of course. If not, it's better to take the observer role. Okay. I think we're set then, indeed.
Yeah. All right. So we have Lily, Muriel, Alice, Akane, and Mayu as creators. Within the creators, you see that there were 2 bubbles that had extra information. So Akane just became the problem owner. And Mayu is also, besides the creator, also the timekeeper.
Well, I must say that this is a role you do want to choose. And I can imagine, Akane, as we cannot really see you and probably hear you, you are not in the ideal position to become problem owner. What are you as a problem owner? Well, at a certain point, if you're talking about deliberate creativity, it has to be super clear what the role division is. And therefore, one of all of you needs to be the one owning the problem. We have already a problem in mind, we will tell you later, but the problem owner is the one who is allowed to take a firmer stand than the rest of us and to make decisions if needed. And so really owning the problem and taking it forward. So who would like to be, of the creators, who would like to take that role? And the problem would be something around bridging practice and theory in the context of creativity. And so I suppose you're all interested in the topic. That's why you came to this session in the first place. But is there one person who would like to be the problem owner?
Yeah, Akane just mentioned that she's having troubles with connection. Akane would be a perfect problem owner because she's one of the chairs of the SIG, so she has this problem in mind as well. So, but yeah, if she has problems with connection, maybe someone else.
Maybe Lily or Muriel or Alice or Maju, do you want to take the role of the problem owner?
I don't really understand the role, but I would like to take the role, yes.
I appreciate that a lot. Let's clarify that later in more detail what we mean with that. But at least you are the one who can choose a little bit more than the others in which direction we will move on to, while being informed by the rest. But we will help you with that.
Okay.
But consider yourself the boss for today. But you can be a super democratic boss, which involves a lot of opinions, but you can also, that's up to you, but we will guide you through it. But at least you get the role of the problem owner today. The timekeeper for today is less important because we are one group, so I will be your timekeeper today.
Okay.
All right, thanks a lot, Muriel. So also one of the things we have to teach our students is creativity is not about being comfortable and in your comfortable space. No, it's about taking a step into the brave space. And Muriel showed already how to do that. Just saying, I don't know what this is about, but let's try. I'll do it. So thanks a lot for that. Highly appreciated. And hopefully you will understand later better why, and otherwise we can reflect on that as well by the end of the session. All right, so we have a group of 4, Lily, Alice, Mayu, and we have our problem owner, Muriel. You are the ones who are going through the creative session, generating ideas, selecting the ones you want to move on with, and so on. And we have a group of observers, Rashpi, Nicola, and Akane. The role of the observers will be to observe, see what's going on, note down anything that sparks your interest, note down any questions that may arise. You won't be interfering in the session, so you're purely an observer, a fly on the wall. And if we reflect later on, you can also maybe be the one to pinpoint some things that you observed along the way. And maybe you will find, while watching the process, you will find interesting topics which can be a connection between practice and theory that you would like to know more about. So just make notifications of that. The active creators, so part of the resource group we call, may also bump into those things, of course, but it can be the case that you're more immersed in the topic itself, in the activities, that you don't have capacity anymore to see more things in the moment, and that's totally fine. That's why we have the observers. So for the creators, enjoy the ride. And for the observers, watch closely what happens, be curious, note down any questions that pop up for you, and we'll address them after by the end of the creative session.
Just to add to this, the form for the for the observers is on the chat. I see already 2 people connected, so good job. So this is some of the points that we think that could be interesting to explore as the observer, to bridge the topics, but there is more space. You just can create more boxes if you'd like. And the other thing is within the Miro board, there is the Wonder Wall. I will call everyone to me. The Wonder Wall is a place where if you have creative insights that you would like to write somewhere and you don't necessarily know how does it connect, just write it here. We'll try to connect it later. So now I pass the word again to Katrina.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So let's get into action. But before we do that, I have to note one thing down. I was trying to do that sneaky while Milene was talking.
So I can add something else while Katrina finishes talking. So there is one reflection form, meaning that the 3 observers can just add their own comments. Just make another line and you add your comments in the same form as the other observers. So this is like a shared document that we are building together.
Right, perfect. Right, then it's time for action, and it's great that I can see the creators here live. You can see each other, so you can, I don't know, do you know each other? Have you seen each other before or not? Really? No, okay, so well, you'll get to know each other along the way. Let's get you all to me. I'm going to explain you what we are going to do in the next 1.5 hours or so. We are going through some steps of diverging, reverging, converging. So today we will go through a deliberate creative process, which is building on creative problem solving, but it's a little bit more European approach towards, as opposed to the American flow. We will start, and that's, well, some parts you may recognize from theory already, and some may be new, but just let's see what it brings us. We will go through a phase of problem finding, we call, so we have to reframe the problem in order to understand it, to feel the urgency of solving it, to be on one page together and make sure that we are actually solving the right problem. Then we will go through a phase of idea finding, so explore opportunities, ideas, possibilities on how to solve the problem. But we always do it together as a group. We go through diverging, which is about generating options. We go through reverging, which is about revisiting, rearranging options, understanding what's out there. And we go through a step of converging, which is selecting options. And in a group, it is essential to follow those steps together, and not that somebody's already converging while another person is still coming up with option, because that's conflicting the group dynamics. On your own, it's fine individually, but as a group, we need to find a way that we can all go through the same procedure. As you know, a creative process is, or creativity is something unsure, right? You don't know what will get out of the process, but at least you have the process itself you can stick to, you can hold on to. So we provide structure in the creative process in order to allow chaos and uncertainty and new insights as the outcome of it. Then the third step would be about solution finding. We go super quick through that because we have limited time. It's more about showing some of the techniques and ways of doing than doing this super properly, because we have really limited time. On the agenda, you see already some techniques that we will be using along the way. Don't bother too much yet, because I will guide you through this step by step. At this point, any questions about this briefly, about the diverging, converging? Are those familiar terms? Or do you have a question about it? But we will guide you through it later as well. All right. Okay. So the first thing we need to do, and I will bring everyone to me again in case you, oh no, you did not lose me yet, so that's good. Before we can start thinking of ideas, of course, we need to find out what is exactly the problem. And well, although Muriel said I will be the problem owner, at this point, Milene, you are the problem owner, as in, can you give us a little brief on what are we going to solve today?
Yes. So normally when I'm working with creative facilitators like Katrina and the other colleagues that we have around, we have different perspectives of how creativity works. Sometimes there are underlying theoretical elements that I have in my mind that do not align necessarily with the views of Katrina or other creative facilitators. So what I would like is, how can we connect better with creative facilitators and other practitioners of creativity? So for instance, maybe one of my first questions is, how do I connect with other people involved in creative practice? Because mostly as a researcher, I have access to the work that my peers in research do, via papers. But normally practitioners are not sharing papers, or they communicate their insights in different ways. So this, my first question is, how can we bridge these two fields of creative practice and creativity theory? How do we communicate better? How do we start to collaborate?
All right. thank you for introducing this problem. I can imagine there are some questions about this, so feel free to ask Milene any question you may have right now about what to clarify further, basically. And to do that, you can unmute yourself and ask Milene a question if you want her to clarify certain parts, or if there's another question you may have.
So is it everything from finding people to reaching out to them, that sort of thing?
Yeah, it could be. It could be in terms of, for instance, in my work right now, I get acquainted with people that are working in creative practice, but it's almost by chance, and yeah, it's difficult for me to have an overview of what everything is being done in creative facilitation. So, what are the current understandings of creative facilitation? Because in my view, I don't think creative facilitation is being investigated much in the field of creativity. There is stuff on facilitation, but not on creative facilitation.
Okay, so
say the last thing. There's stuff on facilitation.
Yes. So, for instance, the work of some people on, yeah, I know some people that have done their PhD on facilitation, but that's more connected to the topics of communication within teams, the role of the facilitator, and not so much about what is the process that leads to more creative output or to a better creative process.
From the view of the facilitator.
Could be, yeah.
So at this point, the problem is stated very broadly: how to bridge creativity, practice, and theory. In the next step, we will specify this further, because what I've also learned from deliberate creativity in groups is having a super abstract question will lead to abstract solutions. So the more specific you have it, the more specific solutions we will get. So that will be a step why we will go and rephrase the problem statement. At this point, you have just heard Milene's introduction about how to bridge creativity, practice, and theory. Can you now, everyone, pick a yellow Post-it and note down some first ideas you have already? What would be? How could you bridge creative practice and theory? What are some ideas? What are some solutions? Any idea that pops up is a good one, so please write down any suggestions you may have. And if you need extra Post-its, please feel free to add them. And at this point, it's also from both sides, right? How do you get practice into theory, but also how do you get your theory into practice? Am I doing today stuff that you know about? Maybe not. So it's both ways at this point. And please come up with some ideas. So maybe you have a few ideas already. Feel free to note down as many as you have right now. How to bridge creative practice and theory. All right, finalize your idea. And when you're ready, you can come along with me to the next sheet. how-tos. And maybe I'm going to overrule you anyway. Yeah, to bring everyone to me again. All right. We're moving on to the next step, how-tos. So a way to identify or to define the question a little bit more specific is by noting down as many questions as possible about what you would like to solve. So we've made, this is an example of diverging, right? So don't judge anything that you are typing in. Postpone judgment is how we call this. Any suggestion is a good suggestion. It may help others to come up with more ideas. So the starting point was how to bridge creative practice and theory, but there may be other questions which is actually behind this. Maybe how to make facilitators aware of what's going on the research side, or how to know what's going on in the other fields, or how to make academics aware of what's going on the practice side. And yes, you are great, guys. You have been started already. How can I test my theory? Exactly. Yeah. How to empathize. Okay, go ahead. Think of questions, other questions that would address this problem in a different way. Take several perspectives. Very good. How else could you phrase this question? And ideally,
so like Alice, sorry.
I know, I think I've
ideally
done the
you
wrong
start
thing.
with how to.
I've just interrogating the question, which is something else, which is kind of different. I probably should have done that on the last board. Should I? Have I taken us backwards?
Sorry, Alice. In the blue, we are at the blue post-its right now.
Yeah, I know, but I want to know why we're doing this. You know, I've basically taken it back to why are we doing this?
Well, that's
Yeah.
a perfect question to the problem owner.
Well, I've asked them as four questions for the problem owner, and that's not really what you were looking for on this board, is it?
No, it's really rephrasing the actual problem.
I know, but I've just realized that I still needed to ask the fundamental questions.
Well, then we need to do that. So, Milene.
Okay, I've put them down. Anyway, I've put them down.
Yeah.
But you can also, Alice, you can also think about what do you want? What do you want it to lead to, and phrase that as a how-to.
Okay.
Because you're here today for a reason, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I kept the problem definition quite large so that we could figure it out different perspectives to look at it.
And the more questions we have, the better. Because one question will lead to another, and at a certain point, we will find the perfect starting point. So please continue coming up with more questions. How to do this? How can we blah, blah, blah. All right, everyone, one more. All right, please finalize your question. And then we'll move on. And ideally, you do this for a much longer time. We did this only for 5 or so minutes. The longer you do this, the more you will focus. At a certain point, you will reach the extended effort, is what they say. So by pursuing, I can share research with you on that. That ideas come in waves. In the beginning, it's obvious ideas. At a certain point, it becomes silly ideas, and the third wave is where the magic happens, where the novel is combined with the useful, and that's where really the interesting things are emerging. But for that, you need many more questions like this, and much more time actually to spend on it. Today we don't have that, so we will use this as a starting point to proceed. The next step we will do is what we call reverging, and reverging is like a step on the plate, or stop on the plate. It's a Dutch phrase. It's like you don't come up with more suggestions. You're also not ready to choose yet. The only thing you do is read what you and your peers have written here, and just try to see, maybe you see some patterns, some directions, some things that intrigue you. I'll give you 2 minutes to have a look at all the questions, and maybe already good for Muriel to know. After this moment, we are going to converge as a group, by the way, but maybe you have a particular route that you would like to explore later, Muriel. So, but take a moment to read the questions we come up with so far. All right. Once you've read them all, please pick the one you like best to the right, to the choose a problem statement sheet. So everyone is allowed to pick one and bring it to the choose a problem statement sheet. And you can also choose the same, of course. So if your once it has been picked already, that's fine. And don't look at it as a way from, oh, this is, it doesn't have to be perfect yet, but it's just the direction you're interested in. We will rephrase it later into a good starting point.
Do you want us to really move it, or shall we just duplicate rather?
Yeah, either way.
Oh, someone's taken the one I wanted to take, so do I just leave it then?
I move it one further. How to periodically share knowledges.
Yeah.
And maybe there's somebody else who would like, whether there's another one. Oh yeah, Mayu is trying to, okay. Do we wait for another one, or are there two? Oh, there's another one. All right. So we have 3 problem statements here. How to periodically share knowledges. How can I make creative thinking more approachable, repetitive, or easy? How can I induce creativity in students? That's like, how can I boost it, right? Induce, or I don't know the word induce.
Yes, it's like a trigger.
Oh yeah, trigger creativity in students. Okay. So we have 3 problem statements here, and now Muriel, typically what you could do is maybe explain a route you are maybe interested in to explore further, and of course the others are free also to share their insights on this.
I think the second and third are kind of similar. They want to boost creativity or make it more approachable or easy. And I think the third one focuses on education.
Yeah.
I think boosting or inducing or triggering creativity is maybe a good way to go.
And is that something you as researchers or as academia or would like to learn more about? Is that how I should read this phrase? Or is it for others? So induce creativity in students is of course focused on students.
In education, yes. So what was your question?
So basically, what the next step, what we are going to do is phrase these one question. We will use one question to use today for the session. We need to pinpoint it right. So we have to clarify what we are aiming for today. So that can either be about how to periodically share knowledges, like indeed activities or whatsoever we will come up with, or something in the area of educating, making it more easy, and so on. But the question is, for whom is that? That? So if we would go along with how can I make creative thinking more approachable, is that for yourself? Is it for others?
And I have to make a choice now.
No, well, together with your group, it's not only you, but.
Okay.
I have a slight question in that if we were to stay with our original problem as it comes in from our problem owner, then I think we were asked to look at bridging the gap between practitioners, possibly even facilitators, and design researchers. And I'm wondering if we've got too far off the topic with those two. I'm happy to do it. I don't mind if it's just about going through the process. It's fine. But I just pointed out that these two seem quite far away from the original problem.
Yeah, and so very good to bring that back in again. So the original goal is indeed how to bridge practice and creativity. If part of this bridging is about making it more accessible, then yes, we can focus this session on how to make it more accessible in order to bridge it. If that is a too narrow focus, we can also take different perspectives, and that's exactly why we are talking about this, right? Because we need to together, the whole group, not only Muriel, of course, as a problem owner, but as a group, we need to find a problem statement which we all can buy into, which we think is relevant, which is important to solve, because then we're more intrinsically motivated to solve it anyway, and all that's a success factor for creativity. So we are looking for this starting point. So good to pinpoint the fact that to remind us of the original problem statement. So I see a new suggestion here. How can we overcome the gap between practitioners and researchers?
Yes, I thought that it would be more in focus, more within focus.
And is there a specific gap we want to focus on? Like, is it about reaching out to each other, or about each other's learnings, or about each other's? Do we
Maybe
need to
find a connection. How can they connect better? Maybe I don't know whose post-it it was. So
Yeah, that one's my post-it, very much based on listening to Milene at the beginning. But what was interesting for me in the early discussion was about that practitioners, if you think of practitioners as creativity facilitators in professional practice, so people who are in industry facilitating creativity in industry, that the way they operate in the world, they've got no drivers to necessarily produce publishable public results, because of course they're selling a service. So the incentive to share necessarily their practice is the incentives of that stakeholder are quite different from researchers.
Yeah.
Obviously, as researchers, we're often also teachers, which is why perhaps this drive to implement it in student practice is an obvious one, but that one already exists in a way. So I kind of quite liked, maybe I was reading quite a lot into Milene's dilemma, but Milene's problem is quite intricate. There's quite a lot to explore there, which is the drivers and the situation of creativity facilitators in industry is quite different from us creativity researchers in academia, and that would be an interesting thing to explore. Where are their gains to be met?
Yeah. So because they have different interests, it's more difficult to connect, because what's in for both sides.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. And what do both sides gain? I suppose it's, if you have a two-way, we're back to the why questions. Why do it? Is like, we can develop creative practice theory and teach it to our students, who then end up in industry. So it's a kind of indirect flow of practice into industry.
And how would you phrase that as a question?
I'm not sure. I'm just waffling.
Therefore,
you could just mute my microphone and move on.
Exactly, and this is my trick, my facilitator trick, to specify that, and others can help you, of course. Marju, Lily, Muriel.
Maybe I'm just making the situation worse, but I'm sort of reflecting and dwelling on Milene's original problem statement, I suppose, and I'm giving a few interpretations of it. Whether we want to do anything with it, I don't know.
So, for example, how to connect practitioners and researchers, how to gain both from connecting, something like that.
I was also thinking about get them more connected.
How to get them more,
share more knowledge with each other or something.
Yeah, I like. That's why I kind of like the one, how to periodically share knowledges.
Yeah, and that would be a solution to. It's an example.
I kind of really like it, because it like, if you imagine on a timeline, researchers and educators have like their normal practice and their roots, and they're getting on with things, and you have practitioners getting on with things, and you imagine like getting together every 3 years and like sharing knowledge, and then going back out where there's a complete win-win scenario.
So Marju, I see you nodding. Can you add to this? Is there?
Sorry, because I was the one who posted how to periodically share knowledge. And the reason I posted, it was already explained by Alice, but I was thinking that it can be one solution to like make more high quality chances to share knowledges between the people that can't meet that often.
So and the next step would be coming up with ideas for these questions, right? And if we would go along with a question like how to get theory and practice more connected, we would come probably with a solution. One of the solutions would be, well, we should periodically find moments of sharing knowledge. However, if we pick how to periodically share knowledge, if we use that as a starting point, we will come up with ideas on a more concrete aspect. Well, we can organize events, we can meet online, so it's more concrete, and therefore it may be more interesting if that is what we are looking for. So maybe, Mayu, what do you think? What would be your preference? More abstracts, where we find more ways on how to connect, or more specifically on how can we create these periodically moments of sharing knowledge? Maybe we should rephrase it a little bit.
So make it a little bit more abstract is what you're suggesting at this point.
So no, I'm not suggesting that necessarily.
Oh.
I'm just explaining what will happen.
Yeah, I agree. We'll end up, we'll finish. We can go and have coffee in 5 minutes if we continue on this one.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll
my image of periodically was like once a month, but Ellie said like 3 years.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's different enough, and I thought like it's maybe not that concrete that then we're imaging.
So then just maybe it's not about periodically, but it's more how to connect on a regular base. So it's not a one-time thing, it's continuous. How to connect continuously. Something like that? Yeah,
but periodically implies that. Actually, periodically implies a period, but the period can be anything. So regular, it implies a repetition.
Periodically.
Otherwise we're going out to get the tampons out.
Well, we're a female group anyway. How to connect periodically? How about that? Do we all think, well, this could be interesting to how to connect, well, theory and practice periodically? Shall we go with that? Lily, how about you? What do you think?
Yes, I like this option. It's more abstract, so I prefer.
Do we want to? We don't want to label the people. Then we don't want to say researchers and practitioners, because that is different from how to connect theory and practice.
Researchers and practitioners. Good point. Because the way you phrase it, it's also the way you will answer it, right? So we have to be careful about the phrasing. How to connect researchers and practitioners periodically. How about that? Shall we go with that? Muriel, what do you think as a problem owner?
Yeah, I agree.
Any objections from the rest?
I don't know. I'm now worried that actually, if we did theory and practice, we open. It's a bit more abstract. It opens more, whereas this is definitely people centric, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's a choice, and my preference is definitely the more concrete, the better. Otherwise, you get abstract.
But not so concrete that we finish in 5 minutes.
Well, not so concrete that it entails the answer. That's the only. But if it's people focused, I think it's good. Actually, it is about people. So I move it here then. Oops. Oh, we went to the restating already. How to connect researchers, I have to rephrase this, researchers and practitioners. And then comes the trick. Let's use this question as another starting point to do another purge. In the beginning, we did a purge. So write down any ideas that you have already. We will do that again, but now with the new problem statement. So I will move you all to my sheet. The new question would be how to connect researchers and practitioners periodically. And once you have, so you can again come up with ideas answering this question. And this will also be a check whether this is indeed the right direction. You can tell from the answers you come up with. So let's see what answers will come up here. So note down any ideas you have right now. Anything is a good idea. How to connect researchers and practitioners periodically.
They can be solution statements this time, yeah?
Yeah, solutions, ideas, yeah. All right. This is a great start. So let's take a break now. I'll put a timer here. A 10-minute break to give you some time to go to the bathroom, to get a coffee, to take a break. Because after the break, we are going to proceed with some diverging techniques. So see you back after the break.
Hello again. Oh yeah, it's almost done.
Always good to mark the end of a break.
Yeah, say hi.
Yeah.
The only good thing of being at the faculty is that you are able to get coffee in a very quick way rather than wait for the coffee pot to make coffee.
For the line, at home.
No, not well. It gets busy as well, but mostly with the coffee pot taking time.
Right. So good to have you back. We've started already with some ideas. During the break, you may came up with some new ideas. So that's great because you can directly write them down because our next step will be brainwriting. So in deliberate creativity, we have two approaches to diverging. We have based on fluency, so the more ideas, the better. And we also have a way based on more on flexibility. We'll practice that later. But the first one is the more ideas, the better. In order to do this, we have to postpone our judgment. So any idea you have to come up with is a good idea. So write down everything that pops up. Try to be spontaneous. Feel free to float around. Don't think about whether it's relevant at this stage. That's not the point. We'll decide that later. Don't bother. Build on each other's ideas, and eventually quantity breeds quality. So really, the more ideas, the better. So go ahead, and maybe before we start coming up with ideas, really after the break, it's always good to let your blood flow around a little bit. It helps. So stand up, please, for a moment. Do like this. Yes, let's do it. We are going to come up with a lot of ideas, and go and sit down and do it. All right, go ahead. How to connect researchers and practitioners periodically. Write down any ideas you have. The more, the better. And I move your purged ideas here as well for more inspiration. Let other ideas inspire you. So, for example, how to make them work together was one of the ideas. Think of some alternatives. How to make practitioners and researchers together. how to lower the threshold to connect. You're doing great, guys. Girls. Everyone, one more? How would you connect Einstein to Elon Musk? A researcher and a practitioner. All right. Let's move on. If new ideas pop up, please feel free to still write them on the yellow post-its. But I'm going to explain to you what another approach to diverging is. So we just practice fluency, just coming up with more, and that will eventually lead to novel and useful ideas. Another approach would be flexibility. I will bring everyone to me. Sorry if I overrule you while writing a nice idea. Visual stimulation in this case. There are plenty of ways to do this, but we will do visual stimulation. So as a group, we will pick one picture from below here. And, oops, my computer is crashing. So maybe let's just ask somebody to do this. How about Mayu? Can you pick one picture that just pops out to you for some reason, and can you move that picture up where we can all see it in the put picture here box?
Difficult to choose one.
And it doesn't matter which one, just anyone that stands out to you for some reason.
I like this flamingo.
Ah, oops. Sorry. Can you solve that, Milene, maybe? Or Mayu herself already?
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so we have a random stimuli here. We have here something. Okay, now I would like to ask every one of you to write down in the green post-its any associations or observations you have while looking at this picture, not related to the problem at all, just what you see on this picture, and write that down. Sun, exactly. Beach, sea, city. Maybe one more from anyone. Bikini. Beach. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So now we move to step 3. So I guide you to me again. We will pick one observation and we think, how does that trigger new ideas? So for example, we will pick beach. Beach. If you think about beach, how could that inspire you to new ideas for how to connect practitioners and researchers with the word beach? And you can write it in the yellow post-its again. Here, so on the screen. Very good. One more, maybe?
A quick question, was it any of the words or only the beach word?
Only the beach at this point.
Okay.
But of course, if you feel inspired by another word, feel free to write any idea that pops up. And then we can proceed to step 4, where we pick just another observation. How about silly? How does silly inspire you to new ideas on how to connect researchers and practitioners periodically? And fill that out in the yellow boxes as well, please.
Sorry, Katrina, are we going to go through all the words?
No.
Are we not going to do bikini? Because otherwise I had to write my idea.
Please do. Write down any idea that pops up at all time. Please do. And please never delete any idea. All ideas are good. So please note down any idea that pops up. It can inspire or trigger others for new ideas, which we call hitchhiking. So did you already come up with an idea how silly triggered to new ideas? Everyone will do one more.
Can it also be a word that we already mentioned?
Yeah, I mentioned it already, but I don't see the activity, so therefore I thought. But anyway.
Okay.
I think Muriel was asking whether she can bring something back that has already been mentioned.
Yes, from the first question.
Oh, that's what you're saying. Yeah, so we will capture in the end all ideas. That will be the next step. So no worries. All right, everyone write down one more idea and then we move on to the next. Okay. Very good. All right, we have diverged. It's time to move on. I'm going to overrule you again. Sorry about that. We move on to spontaneous clustering. So we have diverged. It's time to reverge. What is reverging again? It is about revisiting and rearranging options. Why do we do that? Well, it's to avoid the Kriya docs. So just now we were trying to come up with a lot of ideas, out of the box ideas, novel ideas. But there's a tendency when you want to converge, when you only choose the ones that you can see implemented tomorrow. So you will kill all the creativity. Therefore, an additional step was introduced, reverging. A moment where you consider all the ideas, also the novel ones, the ones you don't fully get yet. You will give them a chance to grow in your mind. And while doing that, the ideas grow, they will get stronger, and it's more likely you will choose them later. So it's more likely that the creativity will survive. I will bring all the ideas here also from just now, so no worry about that. I will make sure all the ideas are here, which are purged in the beginning, which you wrote down during the brainwriting, and they are all here now. What will we do with these ideas? We are going to cluster them. And you can all do that together while talking out loud. You will just move ideas together which somehow are connected together, and the clusters will that way just emerge. You will just start anywhere, and at a certain point you see, okay, these ideas belong together, these ideas belong together for whatever reason. The reasons also emerge along the way. Don't try to think of categories already right now. It's spontaneous clustering. So just cluster and see what comes along. So feel free to move around post-its, and while you do that, you can talk out loud so others can also hear why you are doing that or what you are doing and so on. So please go ahead already and use all the space you have to put questions together that you think are fit together. You can talk out loud. Don't hesitate to do that. Feel free.
I was just speaking with my mic muted.
Ah.
I just said I was just going to put my publication, all the publication-based ones.
Oh yeah.
I've put a green post-it note to to label that cluster, or you don't want us to do that yet?
Ideally, we do that at the end, because
Okay.
otherwise there's a risk that people force fit ideas into this rule, because there may be a
Okay.
more interesting connection to it. But
Okay.
it's very likely that
It's
that
too
cluster will appear indeed.
Okay.
So at this point, it's only putting them together, and then we will give them names. So, and everyone, please continue helping cluster all the ideas. I assume all the post-its above the gray bar are not yet clustered. So once they are all shifted down the bar, then we know they have been clustered. And if you are in doubt, you can ask others. If you don't understand an idea, please ask others to clarify. That's the whole purpose of reverting. Be curious. What is this about? Can you elaborate? Let the ideas grow. All right, few more to cluster. Very good, almost done. Are all the ideas clear? Or do you have a question about them? It looks they're all, it seems they're all clear. Okay, one final idea on top of the bar. Ask to invite a +1 sort of buddy. Maybe.
Oh.
Some things that one could be on its own, maybe. Because that's kind of about growing a network, isn't it? I think that one might be unique as well.
Yeah. So there can always be another cluster. So if there is one unique, you can.
Yeah. So this one, I think the badge, the clothing or the badge is also.
Yeah, so but that's fine. We call that cluster other. So let's name all the clusters now. I'll get you can get a blue post-it and name a cluster. So we can do that together, of course. So how about the top left cluster? Is that one big cluster, all the ideas on the left, or are those various clusters?
I think maybe those two. I think those two could go in, because to me that cluster is about putting material out. I think the odd one out is, so this was about a magazine, a newsletter, a magazine, social media, podcast, platforms. The only thing I think there is connect with new active creativity facilitators. That is more of a building a network activity, and that one would not fit in that group. I think if the grouping is going to be called putting material out there.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, you can write that in the blue post-its.
Networking, or
no. No, I mean the network, the connect with other ones is more networking.
That's more networking.
Should go somewhere else.
This cluster is more like sharing information.
Yeah, putting material out. So
and it's always interesting to find names for clusters which are a little bit provoking, a little bit triggering a direction. Not too generic, not like marketing, networking, but more specific. What is it about? Putting material out there, or indeed getting to know each other personally. I like those names indeed.
So
is this also switch experience? Is that also a cluster name? Or not? Is that an idea? Switch experience.
No, I put that like a cluster name, but I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, I put it on just for clarity. I put it on the blue one. Switch experience. Nice. I like the name, by the way. It's clearly it's clarifying what it is about.
The one underneath is very much about understanding incentives, so of the different parties.
Yeah.
So I would just label them like incentives for bridges or something like that.
Yeah. What's the gain? What's in there for them? Something like that. Yeah. Incentives for both parties, for both sides, maybe something like that.
Bridge. I mean, the original question's got the word bridge in it, hasn't it? So yeah, I'm just sort of, yeah, maybe it is incentives. Stakeholder incentives, it sounds a bit boring, but that's kind of, because if you say both sides, you've limited it to just the two stakeholders, right? So
stakeholder incentives it is.
I know, it's a bit horrible phrase, isn't it? Horrible phrase.
Oh, if anyone has a suggestion, but otherwise type
a bit boring. Sounds a bit
party incentives.
No, the parties are all up above this cluster.
Okay, and we have pairing. We have two more.
Yes.
Three more.
Just for, I have a question for pairing. Why we do not have put this post-it as to invite +1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have put it in other, but it may be in pairing. I think it's in the same.
There's as well. There as well, yeah.
Except that I think there's something special about growing the network.
But we do it in between, like this. So it is related to it, but it's not necessarily part of it.
Yeah, although I think growing the network is so important, even though we only have one post-it on it. I would almost want a separate theme called
That's
growing the
exactly
network.
why we are doing this activity. You suddenly recognize patterns, but you also see gaps, and you see a gap of growing the community,
growing the network. Yeah, growing the community
and network.
Yeah, I think it's so good that we need a whole category for it.
Yeah, and even if we don't have ideas now, typically what you would do, you would go back to diverging now. You would come up with other ideas. How can we grow the network? How can we build this community? And that's exactly the purpose of this reverging. So thanks for bringing that up. So we won't go back to diverging today because we simply don't have time. But typically you would definitely have to do this to fill the gaps because you've spotted one. Okay, so we have to finalize this. So if everyone can just name a cluster because we have to continue. So we have here create a mentoring scheme, an agenda, work scheme for researchers. So it's like a bigger.
Yeah, I don't like the other label.
Well, it's just
because that's my crazy idea that came from the bikini, and I have to.
Yeah, but probably there's another Einzelgänger here, so that's fine. Other is just so in the end we don't choose clusters; we choose ideas individually, and you always have some ideas that doesn't really fit anywhere yet, and that's fine. That's fine. So please finalize this naming because then we can take a break. Yeah, how about the group here on top? Link them through teaching students, make them both work with children, use the culture of comedy somehow, and skit. I don't know what skit means. Can someone elaborate skit?
Sorry, I wrote skit. It's like performing.
Performing?
Yeah, it's like acting, performing.
Acting, yeah, sorry, yeah.
I think link them through students could possibly go in research through practice examples. So I would move that one if everyone's okay with that, and then we can just focus on this one being comedy activities or something. Then this one can be comedic activities.
Yes, but if we want to call them comedic activities, I think we can also move, make them both work with children.
Well, it could be funny. It could hopefully be funny.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, I see what you mean. Make them both work with children. Is that the research through practice again?
All right, please finalize the name, and we will have to move on.
Okay, it's not going to be perfect. I'm just going to write.
It's not perfect, but that's due to time. We have limited time today. Normally, what you would do now is ask somebody to present all clusters. We won't do that today, but you already felt that while doing this, you get a better idea of what are all the ideas there. You went through them, you saw them, you read them, you thought about them, you asked for clarification if you did not understand them, and therefore the understanding of the ideas grow. And in the next stage, which we will do after the break, we will pick an idea, or multiple ideas actually, that you would like to proceed with. And by doing this reverging activity, you will choose different ideas than you would normally do if you would directly choose. It will this is all done to increase or to lower actually the risk that you only would choose the very easy, feasible ideas and pick more creative ones. All right, let's take a break. And how long would you need a break? Would 5 minutes be enough? It's very short, right? Maybe 10? Or something in the middle? I don't know how it's hard to see online how tired or how fit you are. How about 8 minutes? Is that okay, everyone?
Yes, it's great.
Yeah? All right. See you back and after the break, we will choose ideas we would like to proceed with. Welcome back. So why are we taking the break right after clustering? It's definitely to allow you some incubation time as well. What happens? What did I see? Things start to connect. So this, just before choosing, this is a perfect moment to take a break. And the next step that we will do is converging. And converging is all about selecting the ideas you would like to proceed with. And I'm taking you to explaining what hits or dots is about. So I will bring everyone to me. You are about to give a lot of ideas hits. And why is that? Well, you see them here below already for Muriel, Alice, Mayu, Lily. You will all get 7 green dots. So choose any idea that you like. We do many, square root of the number of options, because then you are not felt limited to choosing only those ideas, that you don't feel limited that it have to be the perfect ideas. You can just put a lot of choices there. That really helps choosing. It makes it more intuitive and more fluid. Well, the green dot means, well, this is feasible. This is an idea that hits me and that I can see working. But we also have red dots. And why is that? Again, to protect the novelty, to protect the creativity in the ideas. Maybe there are some ideas that at this point seem not super feasible yet, or you don't know yet how it can make work, but you feel there's something into it. It's interesting. You want it to get noticed, and maybe it's only ideas, right? Maybe later on you can turn this into interesting concepts. So therefore, each one of you gets 7 green dots and 2 red dots for novel. We will apply affirmative judgment here. So in diverging, it was all about postponing judgment. Well, this is the moment you can judge. But how do you judge? Not by focusing on what is not good about an idea, so I pick another one. No, you choose because you like something about an idea. And an idea does not have to be perfect yet, but it still needs to evolve and develop. So what I did, I moved to your ideas here, the same list of dots as well. You find them here. So now feel free, Muriel, Alice, Mayu, and Lily, to pick your green dots and put them on the post-its, on the ideas that you think, this is something, this is a hit, something that's intriguing, that meets the goal, how to connect researchers and practitioners periodically, but also place the red dots, which are really novel ideas that we can work on. Go ahead. You're also allowed to put a lot of dots on one idea if you feel that's just...
Katrina, in your experience, is it helpful to revisit the client at this point?
Not yet here, but after this.
Okay.
First, let's see what a group thinks.
Okay.
So we need to place the dots at the ideas, not the clusters.
Exactly, and this is an important point indeed. So thanks for asking. Indeed, because an entire cluster, that's not really telling what you are interested in. No, it's a specific idea that you choose from. Indeed, yeah.
I nearly started stealing someone else's dots.
Stick to your own dots, indeed. And because you've clustered this, it's easier to place the dots because you know already much better what's out there. It's easier to choose.
It's true.
Sorry, can you just re-explain what is the red point is for what?
Yeah, red dot is an idea that intrigues you, but it's novel. So forget a little bit about it, whether it's feasible or not. That's not the point. Just if you think, oh, this is interesting and novel.
Okay.
And the purpose is to protect the novelty and therefore protect creativity.
No.
All right, almost done. You see that dots sometimes attract some other dots, which is good, which is okay. So, perfect. So this is great work. So what we've done now is, so we identified the hits. And it doesn't mean that the other ideas are no good ideas or should not be considered anymore. So something you should never do is throw away the other ideas because we have the best ones, right, selected. No, you have to keep them all and you have to keep coming back to all because there may be some interesting stuff in there that can add to your idea, that can inspire you for future ideas. So don't throw anything away. This is just a way for us to get focused on those ideas which are interesting, which we want to explore further. And if we would have more time, we would do that. We would pick some of the ideas. Typically, what I would ask you to do maybe is go in groups of 2, for example, in duos, and select an idea that you want to explore, that you want to turn into a concept. So I'm moving you to the sheet on the next here, to me. Because what we've done so far during this session, we started with the brief by Milene. Then we went into diverging, how to, what are other ways of putting this problem, how-tos. Then we reverged, we looked at those questions, and then we converged. What is actually the question that we would like to address today? That brought us to this clear problem statement, which is, according to deliberate creativity, one of the 3 basic principles that you need in order to get creative, a clear problem statement. Then we went diverging again, first with the fluency-based techniques, the more ideas the better, but also with the flexibility technique, which was more about how to look different at the ideas, with the visual stimulation. Then we did another reverging exercise, in this case, the clustering. Clustering really helped us to consider the ideas more, to identify gaps, to understand the problem and the solution both better, to see patterns, connections, but also to let the ideas grow in your mind and make it more likely that you would actually choose ideas which would normally you may not consider because they are too vague. So they grow, and that's important. And then we converged with the dots. Not picking one, no, we picked a selection of things. This allowed more intuition into it, so because you could put more dots. Therefore, also increasing the chance that you would also consider other ideas than only the perfect one yet, because none of the ideas are perfect. That's why it's ideas for. You have to do some hard work after the session in order to get it into something that is going to work. So we are right here now at this stage, short list of ideas. Typically, we would need more time now to diverge again, starting from these ideas that were dotted. Building them into concepts, making sketches, building concepts, starting prototyping, and then reverge again, and then converge to see what is the 1, 2, or 3 best top solutions. So this last diamond we are not going today, which may feel a little bit unsatisfying to you, I can imagine, because in your mind the ideas started to grow already. But we also had another purpose today in this session. So also we needed time to reflect on this experience, but also to see possibilities for connection between research and practice. So we leave it today at this stage. So the dotted ideas, the ideas that we need to consider for next steps. So take them with you in your own quest of bridging research and practice. And normally this would also be the moment for the mural, in this case, for the problem owner to reflect on what we see here on board. Where does the problem owner get enthusiastic about? What does she would like to get along? But advised by the group. So you know now what the group likes, then it's, and she can take that advice to get further. But as I said already, I'm sorry, today we leave it here at the dotted stage. And thanks a lot for your active participation, for the creators at least, and the observers. Well, we have to find out, of course, what they observed. And yeah, I hope it gave you sort of a feeling about the steps that we did. But I can imagine not everything is clear yet why we did things in a certain way. There is some theory behind this. Maybe we talk about that today, but also feel free to reach out to me any other time if you want to discuss such things. All right, I'm handing over to Milene again.
Can I just ask,
Yes.
will the Miro bird stay there for a while?
I think so. And of course, we are going to use this kind of insights that will result from here to the SIG. So definitely it's going to be used, also the recording, it's going to be used for the, how do we call this, like an overview of the workshop, of the results that we got from the workshop. That's going to be also shared, if you would like, with you guys, so that you have an access to it.
Thank you.
So it's now moving on to the next part. You have finished the action of the creator, so the creative session as it would in a short amount of time. And now we would go and ask the observers for their observations. But maybe do the observers need a break of 5 minutes just to gather their thoughts, to stretch their legs, also for the creators? And we could have a very short break of 5 minutes to also incubate again and then restart again, stretch your legs, and then we come back in 5 minutes.
Shall I put a timer again on the Miro board?
Please do that. I was going to do it, but until I find the clock.
Yeah.
Should we, as observers, discuss among ourselves just see how we want to do this kind of reflection, or
that is a
what
good
were your
point.
thoughts?
I was going to do it with the creators as well, because that's an opportunity to ask their perspective on the spot. So it's not so much about preparation now. If you want, you can stretch your legs.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. I mean, we prepared a lot. We exchanged some interesting discussion in the chat in Google Docs, so it was nice.
Definitely. And if you guys are curious, well, I will share it again when everybody's back. We have filled in a lot of observations that we can share with everybody. Hello again. So I hope that you're fully rested and ready for the last part of the workshop, which is now to put our researcher hats again on and think about also from the perspective of the creators, of the reflectors, and think about what did we learn? Did we learn something new? What's potentially coming out of here? So I would like to bring you to this board about the reflection. And in this task, the observers take the lead, but by no way it should be only the reflectors talking, or the observers. We would also like to involve the creators from their own perspective to see what do they think about these own observations from the inside. So in the chat, I shared the Google Doc that the observers were filling in. And as Nicola was mentioning, we put a lot of text. So it's going to take a bit to focus on, to read everything on. But maybe what I would like to suggest is to ask each of the observers to name a couple of topics that were interesting for them, and we can then expand on each of them. I was also taking the role of the observer, so I can also mention some things also from my side. But who would like to start?
I could start.
Perfect.
So for me, like, it was really interesting was the social group, how it changed and everything, and also like some social relations. This was like really interesting because like Muriel at the beginning, she took the role of problem owner, but like later on, like was I think most of the turn was by Dr. DeConnick and by Katrina, I guess. It was really interesting. So I think that this was like really was probably some sort of experience or something has like really big role on deciding obviously in which direction they would like to go. That was like really interesting. And also the interaction which was led by Katrina between individual and collaborative work, because like from my perspective, like creative sessions were usually just discussing a theme, but this was like more like interaction, individual team. This was like really interesting from my perspective. Yeah. Maybe you can just wait for questions later. We have some.
Yeah. Would someone like to comment about this? Even Katrina, to see what are the differences between creative sessions that we normally put designers working together on a project brief, and we try to observe them. It's quite different than a creative facilitation session. What are your observations about this? And in the meantime, I'm adding some post-its.
Yeah. So regarding this change between individual and group, of course, if you want to apply creativity in group, you have to find a form that adheres to all personalities here, right? Extrovert, introvert, whatever preference you have in the way of working, you have to find an optimal process where everyone can work in. And one way to do that is allow moments for individual work and allow moments for interaction. And we are doing this online. Normally we would do this in person, and then it's also easier to switch, by the way. But you also saw, for example, during the reverting stage, that ideally I would like to see more team interaction. And it was difficult for me to facilitate that today. It stayed more individually. Although in real, it would be much easier for me to facilitate that. And here I still have to find the tricks on how to do that online, I guess. And maybe it's also more difficult online. But indeed, playing with individual and group is an essential element to make sure everyone can put in their quality in the ideas, because introverts cannot think while others are talking, and extrovert people need others to talk in order to think. So what is the optimal process then? That's the quest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was.
I think that was really interesting insight for me. Thanks for explaining.
There was a question somewhere that about the balance between individual and group work. Is it supposed to be so much individual work in such sessions, and how does that influence the process? So it's there is a reason for that as well. Is it only the introvert extrovert balance? Are there other aspects that are involved in this?
Well, the question is, how individual was it? I don't know if let's ask the group, the creators, how they perceive this. If they would have to put percentage, is it 50-50, or how would you say how much was the group work and how much was the individual work? How did they perceive it, at least? That's the question. Not what factually was the.
Yeah, I'm not going to speak because I've just been highlighted that I've spoken too much. So I want someone else. I want someone else to go first.
Yeah, so Mayu was also about to.
Yeah. Oh, good.
10-second rule. After 10 seconds, the others come in as well. Indeed.
Okay, thank you. For me, I thought the time for individual work looked very long, but using Miro, although I'm doing individual work, I can see other people working and I can get inspirations from them. So I felt like it looks like individual work, but we're kind of connected through Miro. And it was interesting to see how other people are moving around. And for example, the voting at the final phase, I was observing how other people vote, and if someone voted to my idea, I felt very happy or proud of it, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this was also one of our questions, regarding in, for instance, you have brain writing methods that are conducted in person, for instance, 635. So it's usually you don't see the individual ideas when you are creating your own, but there is a shift in time, only after some time. So this is more a question for Katrina, because it's is this collaborative environment? Was this on purpose so that others can immediately see the idea of each team member, or was this unintentional?
No, this is intentional. Although in the ideal world, I am super aware of, by the way, what is good facilitation and what is not good facilitation. I know everything about it, but it doesn't mean that I am the perfect facilitator at all. So I'm super aware of all the things I said and the things I did not say or I forgot. So one of the things I forgot, I guess, is also something you have to do as a facilitator, is to create an atmosphere and an understanding among the resource group members that no idea belongs to anyone. It's always a group effort. So yes, somebody typed it, but it did not came out of nowhere. Something triggered this person to write it down. It may have been an idea of another. It may have been a word of another. It may have been the fact that a dog barked outside. It can be anything. So I should have said somewhere in the beginning that it is a group effort and that all the ideas also belong to each other. So there is no such thing as my idea, and so I'm fine that people kind of know who is writing. However, I think if you all write on a Miro board on the same colored post-it, because I did not give everyone their own color post-it, that would be too much intimidating, because then there would be a lot of yellow post-its and only a few red ones. This person would feel maybe, not very comfortable that's so obvious. You don't know exactly who is writing what. Only maybe if you click on the post-it you can see it, but otherwise, again, we can ask the creators. Do you know? Yeah, you know your own ideas, but do you know who wrote the others?
I agree with Mayu, and I was looking at what everybody was typing and where they put their colored symbol. You were kind of working together, but then in silence. Well, I felt like that. I saw what everybody was doing and typing, so it felt like working together. But
Yeah,
maybe
so
it's just me.
no, yeah, I think that is actually the case indeed. But you also say you saw people typing. So at the moment of typing, maybe you see who is typing it, but later you don't remember, right? Who wrote this or who wrote that, and it doesn't really matter either. Or do you?
Some of the post-its I remembered, but of course not every post-it.
Yeah. And that is a deliberate choice, and that's an interesting research field. Maybe what is the effect of knowing it or not knowing it? Should it be anonymous or not? There are different ways to do that. There are platforms where you can be fully anonymous, also with the dot voting and with all the other things. But I also believe, and that's part of this creative process as well, in the end you have to build acceptance as well on what you are doing here. So seeing what others are doing and their consideration helps also in growing your own belief about certain ideas, and it creates a shared sort of understanding. Yes, we are moving towards this, so that a dot attracts another dot. Well, maybe that's not good because you choose not really an idea, you chose it because there was a dot already. But why not? If all the dots are attracting another dot, and more people would like to take that route, you're building acceptance. And if you're building acceptance, it's much more likely that an idea will be implemented. And what's in the end the purpose? To come up with a best idea or come up with something that will be implemented. So in this whole creative process, this acceptance finding process is also a big element that you have to consider, because a random creative idea, which may be the best idea ever, won't get implemented if it will get this not invented here syndrome effect, I would say. So also those considerations are part of this process.
I would like to ask Rajvi, I don't know how to say your name. You were one of the other observers, to highlight something that you have seen.
Yes, so there were two things that stood out to me. One was the entire process went into, so the problem statement was connecting the practitioners with the facilitators, right? So it went into the method of doing it, or the platform of facilitating that interaction between the two, or the connect between the two. But the why or how of it was not really discussed. So I don't know whether it stemmed from a point of like starting with the ideas immediately, or whether it happened due to not really questioning the entire brief itself. So like what is the reason for starting with an idea rather than a question?
Yeah, good point. So I think it normally you would spend more time on understanding why you're doing this in the first place, and really because that's essential in order to also get this intrinsic motivation to solve it, to get the relevance in there, to get the urgency in there. And I think it was more a matter of time, and also we had to come up with an example question that we could put right now. Normally you would, yes, you signed up for this workshop, something with practitioners and researchers, so we assumed it's probably okay to take this as an example case. But this was not what you prepared for when you came here, and this was not what you have been walking around for months already to solve, right? So in that sense, ideally we would have spent much more time to discover that. Yeah, that would be best practice. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm not sure if Akane is here. Maybe there is some other question from Rajvi or Nicola.
Yeah, I just posted one because I did not want to interrupt too much. For me, like this, what Mayu and Muriel asked, said like that they were looking at other stickies. I just wanted to elaborate a bit more. Did they do that from the very beginning? So just like that you collaborative created on, or only after you felt that you fixated on one thing and then used others stickies as priming tool? So can you elaborate on that? What was when you started looking at other sticky notes?
I think I did it kind of unconsciously from the beginning. I wasn't searching for other ideas. I'm just curious about what other people think.
Yeah, there is no good or bad answer. It's like, this is really interesting for me.
Yeah, for me too. Same as Muriel. I unconsciously I was looking at what other people are writing. Maybe especially because it's all the members were new for me, so I first wanted to know like what kind of idea or what kind of mindset they have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it
best
creates a
practice would
frame.
also be to spend more time on getting to know each other. That would also be best practice, because then you would trust already to put out your ideas without thinking what are the type of ideas which are expected here, which is for sure limits your spontaneousness and your creativity, I would say.
Actually, I didn't think about what is expected that much, but
oh, that's how I interpreted what you were just saying. Sorry about that.
No. I didn't feel like what is expected, but just curious how other people are thinking, and
yeah, exactly. So through that, getting to know the people. So, but there was clearly from your side, Maju, then also a need to connect or to get to know others. So well, other people may feel that it's less important to know people, want to dive into the task first. So some people are more people oriented, others more task oriented. And if you skip the people part, which we did a little bit, we did, of course, the energizer or the warming up activities all the way in the beginning. But we may lose people, oriented people along the way. So again, you have to address all needs in that sense when designing a process. And that's also what makes it so complex.
I was wondering about, the difference between, in your experience, Katrina, about the difference between, well, I've got two questions really. One is how you think this would have gone if we'd been together in the room, if you have any forecasts on that. And the other question's a bit more to Milene, really. I often find it difficult when it's very subtle to set a brief. I mean, this is why you observed me frowning so much, because when you designing, when you've got so many layers where what you're doing. So we're holding a creative session of trying to solve a problem about creativity research during a creativity workshop, and then we're going to reflect. There were so many layers that cognitively are quite similar. So say if you'd asked us to design a like the creativity task had been to, I don't know, design an umbrella or something.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to cognitively switch. Now we're doing it, and now we're reflecting on the process. It's not so hard. Whereas when the process, the activity that we're doing is so close to what we're reflecting on, because even now in this conversation it's quite difficult, because in some ways there are elements that are to do with setting a research agenda, but there are elements that are purely based on that are very, very much like observations on creativity. So that's not setting a research agenda, that's actually making direct observations of the session. So there's all sorts of the layers in this are quite cognitively difficult, and it's difficult to switch. It's difficult to switch modes.
Yes, I understand your point, and actually Milene and I discussed this prior to designing this session, and we had some typical problems like how to make it fun to stand in line at the supermarket, kind of stuff, and this one, and we decided to choose this one more for the reason that, well, since we would spend a major chunk of this workshop on the session.
Yeah.
Some people may also feel annoyed that that whole activity is about something else.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I got a lot out of it. Thank you very much for doing it.
But it was a risk. Yeah.
I always find it difficult. Like, for example, in papers, I always comment of like, if someone says I designed a method, and if the actual title of the paper somehow has design in it, I ask them to say I developed, so that cognitively easy to separate out. When you're talking about the content and when you're talking about the process.
Yeah, exactly. So, but for next time, what would you suggest?
I wouldn't change anything. I was really I got a lot out of it. I got some ideas. I feel like we got some ideas out of it for things. I mean, they're very, very early stage ideas, but it was refreshing for me. But then I'm a researcher, similar to Milene, I suppose.
Yeah. No, exactly. But it's definitely something we should. It was indeed a decision we've made, and you have arguments for both sides to do indeed. Yeah. About your other question, how it would have been different if it would have been live.
Because for example, I'm interested in your experience as a facilitator. Have you had, luckily during this COVID period, have you had the fortune of running two very, very similar activities where one was pre-COVID and one was in COVID, where you've been able to draw direct comparisons? Because I think the mirror, we touched on it earlier, where people were talking about how they felt together or not on the Miro board and stuff. I mean, the mode that you're in is so different, and in some ways so efficient. There's so many benefits to this online format, in that it's slightly, I would argue, it's slightly less power. It's less influenced by. It's more democratic.
So the thing is, I taught this course, how to facilitate these types of sessions to students. It's a 2-week block course. I did that live, and I did it twice online. So I have a very interesting comparison indeed that I can make there. So first of all, some elements of this process work very well online. For example, the diverging stage, typing in ideas, works perfectly well on the Miro boards, because everyone can adhere to what he likes. If you want to look for stimuli, if you want to look for other ideas to inspire you, you can. If you want to not being distracted by all that, you can type yourself. You can type faster than you write on Post-it. You can read everything clearly, so you can also easily read other people's handwriting online. So in the diverging stage, there are many benefits. Where the main trouble arises is in the more in the reverging part. So you heard already today, nobody talked during reverging, even though I asked, maybe there's a question. If you don't understand an idea, you can ask for clarification. That did not happen. And in real, it would always happen. It will occur automatically. So it's and on top of that, you cannot see each other. So you don't see that somebody is nodding yes or tuning out. So body language is such a big element in the reverging, but also in converging stage. that you know much better from each other. Where it is going to, and now so this facilitating this process online, the reverging and converging, is much more difficult than diverging, I experience, because there's no group dynamics, so you cannot see it from each other, but I can also not see it very well from you on these tiny tiles here on my screen. So what I do when I have a face-to-face group and you are busy working and somebody gets stuck, I can always move to that person and say something to this person while others don't hear it at all, but I can just target. I cannot say something now out loud, but because everybody will be distracted, because I'm sounding so loud in your ears with your headphone on.
Yeah.
So you cannot avoid me, or how do you say it? You cannot filter indeed. So everything comes in hard, loud, to all of you. And in real, I can help some, and others, well, let them be, because then they work best. So you can target much better what you do with the different people. So that's also difficult online. And what I also have seen is students who I taught to do this stuff in real and who did later sessions online were much more successful than students I taught online how to do this stuff and then translated to real life. They suddenly bumped into all kinds of things, like, how do I do this? The group dynamics, the space, how do I walk around? There are so many facilitator tricks which are just body language. If I walk around nervous in the room, I have to hurry up. Online, I have to put a timer, but it will make people nervous. I cannot do that. Can I do nervous on screen? No, because you look at a Miro board, not at me. So there are so many. You lack a whole big part of your toolbox when you're online. But definitely elements of it are beneficial online, like the diverging, just typing more and more ideas.
Okay, I think we need to move on to the next and last part. Thank you so much. This is really interesting points that we should move to the next board. So now it's a little plenary discussion, in terms of the actual problem that you as creators were discussing, but also the topic of the workshop itself. How do we bridge this potential gap between practitioners and researchers? And the first question I have is, do you recognize a need to collaborate with practitioners and creative facilitators? Because indeed, like you guys mentioned, we didn't really show the relevance of doing this. Is there an actual problem from your perspective? I think that's important to discuss. I will introduce all the questions, the big questions, and then you can add your post-its under each of the questions. So what topics or research questions would be interesting to pursue with the collaboration of practitioners? So from the perspective of you being researchers, what would be interesting to investigate with practitioners? And then the last question, how do we move forward in collaborating with practitioners? And there it's where the ideas that you created are potential interesting points that we should mention here. So this is also a converging step also for us.
Where are we now? Where?
Oh, sorry.
Where
I will.
should we be looking?
I will call you here.
Okay.
Already some people starting putting post-its, and you can also just share some of the ideas while the others write. So would someone like to share one idea or something that they've put in the post-it?
I've just had a new idea which take me a while to put into words. Sorry.
That's no problem. That's a good point of having the board here for a while, is that if you think of something else, you can always add. So something that I think it was Katrina who mentioned, that reverging is something that practitioners are doing already, but not really research on it. There isn't research on it. Normally we consider divergence thinking, convergence thinking, and nothing about reverging. And it might have been a new term for you as well. It was a new term for me when before meeting Katrina. So I just wanted to mention that.
And sometimes it's the case, by the way, that we talk about different things. So I talk about reverging, but I do know about this research topic called transdisciplinary learning. Then I realized, there's a lot of overlap there. Transdisciplinary learning. Yeah. So maybe we do talk about it already on both sides, but we just don't know each other's language.
Exactly. Yeah. There is an enticing question here. Why does industry need professional creative facilitators? Maybe it's a question for Katrina.
Well, I'm writing the second one. These are ideas I've coming up for me. I mean, I used to do that job too before I became an academic.
I didn't know that. Funny.
Didn't you? I worked for CREAX, creativity consultant in Belgium, and I did it in-house in product design consultancy for a year before I became an academic.
And so what's the difference? I don't know exactly what in-house facilitators mean.
If you look at industry, there's people who play that role on top of their normal role in the company. So I would call that in-house facilitation. So they're not the companies aren't buying in externals.
Well,
but creativity facilitation is a really successful value-added consultancy model. Like we use it at the university. We're constantly buying in creativity facilitation for researchers, for example, for own research workshops and things. Departmental strategy. I mean, it's been massively successful.
So it's just that there are a lot of facilitators. There are big facilitator communities who facilitate any types of processes, decision-making processes, idea development processes, also maybe creative processes. But everyone has their own expertise. The only difference is, it's more an expertise within the facilitation domain. What can you do to facilitate specific creativity at certain points? So, for example, what I've heard in the past from facilitators at our ministry, for example, they also have this pool of facilitators that you can ask somebody next to the job and can you come over, facilitate a session for us because we are in the beginning of a project, can you help us to kick off or to whatever. And the 635 sheet was mentioned earlier by Nicolai, right? Do you know the 635 brainwriting way? Well, they made an adaptation to 635. They did, because it was easier to have only 4 rows because that made sense instead of 6 rows. of ideas. And then I was thinking, okay, yeah, of course you can do that if you are interested in inventorizing existing ideas, and if you're not interested in getting to more ideas, which will result in creative ideas eventually if you come up with more ideas. So, but if your purpose is creative outcome, you should never remove those rows, because that was the whole purpose of the 635 sheet, to push for more fluency, to push for more ideas. And if you remove it, you will only get an inventory of existing ideas. And it's fine if facilitators do that, because often inventorying what exists is enough. You will get already interesting ideas enough. But if the purpose is creativity, you should keep it there. So what should creative facilitators know? Well, they should know about the principles behind all the technique, so they can use them whenever they want to apply creativity and facilitate creativity, other than just a nice flow of a process or decision making or an inventory of existing ideas, acceptance finding kind of thing. So it's just a niche in that sense.
Yeah, I had never thought of facilitation of having so many niches. And it's nice the link that you make, or the benefit of understanding underlying theory for facilitators.
Yeah.
In order to become better facilitators themselves.
Exactly.
So they can get to the root cause problem of something social that's happening in the room, for example, quite quickly, rather than just learn by trial and error.
Yeah.
They can fall back on the theory to go, okay, this is the behavior I'm seeing, so this is probably what I should do next, rather than kind of having to learn through many cycles of
exactly. And again, it all depends on what the purpose of the session is. If you want to have a nice team building kind of session where everybody likes each other more at the end, well, then the creative approach is maybe not your
not the main point. Okay,
not necessarily.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Then you put your focus somewhere else. If it's about making a decision which is shared by everyone, you also put your focus somewhere else. But if you want truly creative outputs, you need to know where to put your emphasis on and what the principles are behind it.
Yeah. So this is what I meant. There is such a deep knowledge in terms of what works and what doesn't work in practice. And I think there's a lot to learn from both sides. I will wrap up the workshop now, just to give everyone a chance to have a small break until the next session. But before we go, I would like to share with you what's next. And what's next is that, of course, Katrina and I are always super interested in finding out ways to connect. And if you'd like to learn more about this, we will for sure, if that's possible, I have to check with Akane and the Design Society people, if it's possible to share the report. If so, then I will share the report that we do after this workshop. Another thing important to mention is that Katrina and I have this goal also in our own day-to-day basis, and we have two approaches to bridge practice and theory. One is the Connect to Create conference, in which Katrina is one of the main organizers. Do you want to say something about it?
Yeah, so if you click on this tile, European Association for Creativity and Innovation, the one Mayu is on right now, Connect to Create, you will go to the website where you find more information on this conference, which typically attracts a lot of practitioners who want to learn, because of course there are a lot of practitioners out there who do their trick, and we researchers are not interested in only tricks and don't want to evolve, don't want to learn, don't want to get new knowledge. On the other hand, of course, we only attract academics to the Connect to Create conference if we also allow for paper submission and peer reviews, and so we did. So we hope that we attract both sides, both academia and practitioners, and it will be an event in Delft, 9 and 10 November, where we will connect to create. It will be an atypical, not a typical conference. It's not only paper presentations. We will connect practitioners and researchers to create an experience for everyone in order to allow shared learning. So be welcome to join.
Yeah. And then our other approach for connecting practice and theory is via the Delft Design Lab. So the Delft Design Labs are a series of labs, or let's say platforms, where researchers, educators, and companies interact. And we are a newly created Delft Design Lab called Connected Creativity, in which Katrina and I will direct the lab. And it's mostly a platform for really connecting with people that are doing creativity in practice, but also connecting with development of theoretical approaches to creativity. And of course, sorry, I'm in a workshop. That's the problem of doing it in the office. And of course, connecting with real clients, real companies that want to expand on the topic of creativity in different perspectives. So in that sense, we want to connect with researchers that are interested in creativity, so that they can share their insights to our clients, to our companies that we are working together, to our students. So we are also looking for speakers that want to have a conversation with our students and our stakeholders. So if you would like to connect with us, so that maybe we can share, you can share your insights, that's the more the merrier. So this is it from my side. I see that there are already some comments and some future plans for the future, and Akana is thanking everyone from the DC, the Design Creativity SIG. And I would also like to thank you very much for holding up to this workshop. In the end, we are very happy that we had a small group because we had a much better connection with all of you. So yes, this is it from my side. And thank you very much for your attention and for your participation.